Alrighty, in this video we're going to be backtesting December the 5th to December the 9th, 2022. Because we finished November, we need to determine what the total R for the month was. So let's just quickly review how much R we made in the month. And now for those of you that don't know what I mean by R, essentially, well, depending on how much you're risking, R is just like, okay, well, I aim for 3R, and 1R loss for me would be equivalent to 0.5%. So that means if I win 3R, that means my account is up 1.5%. I do R rather than percentages just because in case if I decide to change my risk, it's a lot more accurate for me to say that I'm up 7R for the week, for example, rather than a certain percentage, since that may fluctuate in the future. I know for my own trading personally, it has fluctuated, so that's why I've done it this way. So if we see November, the first week 7R, second week 2R, third week 5R, third week we didn't catch anything, and then the final week with 4R. So if we do the math together, that should be 18R for November. That's very, very profitable, guys. I mean, if you make if you risk 1%, I mean that you're up 18% just for the month using this strategy. And honestly, like, I trade very, very conservatively, so 0.5% for me is obviously less than 18%, but overall very, very profitable month. So let's just jump straight into December the 5th. So we got to check the news first. Let's navigate over to the news. So December the 5th. Let's see, we got ISM services at 10 a.m. So let's go back in time here. Alrighty. So let's see. December the 5th. Okay, awesome. Do the same thing for NASDAQ. And then once we are loaded up in here, we want to just mark up our news before we forget. Remember, we want a 10 to 15 minute buffer before the news and a 10 to 15 minute buffer after the news. And essentially, we just don't want to be trading in between those buffers. So let's see. I'm not too worried about the final services, but the ISM, yes. So 9:48 and then 10:12. Awesome. Okay. Oh, damn. Okay. 9:48, 10:12. Okay, don't mind me there. Let's mark up our daily liquidity. So previous day low is down there. Okay, so far it looks like we are trying to sweep the previous day high simply because we are closer to that area. We can also see the week before, we did go long, so we might overall try to take out this previous week high. As we can see, it just looks like a bullish trend overall. So let's also mark up our session liquidity. Okay, session low. Now, we'll say this, depending on if you're on this video, just because you're looking for backtesting, this is a ICT / SMC sort of strategy. I mean, I use ICT concepts and then I kind of pair it with some SMC knowledge, and honestly, I find that they work pretty well together. So if that's not something for you, then click away. But something I will say for sure is that if you are watching these backtesting videos, or just any backtesting in general, make sure you're actually watching in depth, because I'm genuinely showing you, like, step by step exactly what I'd be doing. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is so I can treat it as if like it's a live trading environment. And I believe that's how backtesting should be done, right? Like, I'm showing you my analysis, my initial thoughts and everything, and then my potential draw on liquidity based on what I'm seeing. So if you're looking to get the most knowledge out of this possible, just watch every second of it. So anyways, now we have our session highs. We're looking for a buy overall. So let's see if we are aligned on NASDAQ. Let's just quickly mark up the news here. So 948 and then 1012. Okay, awesome. Let's draw up our daily liquidity. So previous day low. Awesome. Dupe that. Okay, and at the same time, let's drop our session liquidity. Overall, looking for buys as well on here. Now, it is possible that we could have a EM1 V2 as a short to go towards the previous day low. However, that is a little bit unlikely, but you know, nothing's impossible, that's for sure. We just got to see what's most probable, and I think because of the previous week high is a lot closer, I think we're more likely to take out that area. Okay, so now we have our bias. We're looking for bias overall, so let's try to identify our trades. So I want to see this session low get swapped before I actually look for a buy, so let's wait for that to get swept here. Okay, there we go. We have our sweep. Now, what could happen here is that we could just instead have a reaction off of this session low as an area of premium, and then we continue to break lower, which in that case we could look for a sell up towards the previous day low. That is a potential scenario, but however, it is a little bit unlikely. So instead, I'm looking for a 10-minute bullish market structure shift, as that aligns well with ES as well. Speaking of ES, where did ES go? Okay, sorry about that. Let's go back to NASDAQ here. So let's see what happens here. We're on the 10-minute time frame. Remember, we want the market to have a reaction off of that session low and essentially break lower in order for this to count as a valid EM1 V2. Okay, see how we had our break there during news. So this is a valid EM1 V2 scenario here. Just a reminder, we want to be looking for these breaks on the 5-minute time frame. So we can see here. Yeah, we can see here that we didn't have a strong break. So we want to identify the candle that actually broke structure there. However, we can see that the second candle that continued that trend did have its candle body close below the fib strength tool, so it is valid continuation. So now we want to just be looking for our entry here to go short. Let's see. Not really liking any of these order blocks, to be completely honest with you. I mean, technically that right there would be your order block. However, the stop loss is above 200 ticks, which invalidates the entry. And honestly, I'm not at all interested in looking for a tiny entry like that. It's just not the way that I trade personally. I don't go any lower than the 5-minute time frame looking for entries, so we're not going to be looking for this entry as of now. So let's just see how it plays out. Yeah, so it looks like it reacted very well off of the order block that we created here. Kind of reacted nice off of that indecision candle. However, you know, because of the size, the only reason why I don't take these trades that have a huge SL is because even if I look for a 2R off of this, like it's a fairly large profit target that we're looking for, right? It has to move like a lot. So we can see that it would have been a nice win for us there, but honestly, I don't at all regret not taking this trade. It just, you know, it happens a lot of times where the market will react nicely off the order block. It'll continue in its direction and then it'll kind of just die off, right? So No trade there. I am gonna save this though, just for my own notes here. So EM1 V2 Nasdaq closed R invalid, AM, and then it was 226. Okay, so what can happen here is now once that previous day low is swept, we can either look for a EM3 model and then a EM2. We can see, well, I stopped trading at 4 p.m. guys, and you see it didn't even sweep the previous day low target. So that concludes that trading day for Nasdaq. Let's take a look here on ES to see what occurs. So we want to make sure we're at 8 a.m. So we swept the session low there. However, I'm not counting this as a break of structure simply because we have those equal lows there, and that's not at all something I'm interested in. So I think this is a fake out. It's going to come up and then have another break. So that's what I'm going to be looking for there. Okay, so that right there I would count as a valid 10-minute break of structure. So we would mark that point here. So break of structure, sorry, because the trend right now is technically still bearish off of this point right here. So now we want to be looking for our entry on the 5-minute time frame. So we can see that the market did in fact have a very strong break. So this is a valid model that we can be looking for here. Now again, I'm not too comfortable with this order block, but given the strength of everything, as long as it falls within our parameters with our stop loss, I will be taking the entry. Okay, so we are within the parameters. I am covering that tiny swing high there. Remember, we do have our news range here, so I do want to look for this entry before news. So there's two ways that a trade idea can get invalidated. It's either if the entry doesn't occur before or after news. So in this case, the entry has to occur before we reach this orange line or after this orange line. And it can also be invalidated by another 10-minute break of structure. So because we do have a stop loss lower than 30 ticks, we can ride it for 4R. However, for just these back testing sessions, we are going to be aiming for 3R, primarily because this whole strategy idea was really based off of the 3R anyways, and the 4R is just a new concept that I've been testing out here. So I am just going to mark that there, but I'm looking for 3R. I'm more than happy with 3R. So let's see what happens. So we do have our entry before news. So this is a valid entry, and we can see here that the 3R was hit almost instantly, which is excellent. And part of the reason why, I aim for 3R rather than the 4R is just for situations like this. I've noticed that the market really tends to have some sort of pullback once that 3R is met. I'm still working on a theory behind it, but it definitely has to do something with market exhaustion. But we'll see if that 4R target gets tagged there, which I'm assuming it might. Yeah, it did, but it just, we extended the wait time by almost an hour just for another R. And to me personally, guys, I like to scalp, be in and out. So I'm very happy with just the 3R there. So let's just journal this down here as a 3R win, EM1 V2, which is excellent. Mark this up here as a premium array because it's exactly what it is. Okay, so there's our 3R entry. Remove this line. Okay, nice. So we're up 3R for the day. Would have been up 6, but Nasdaq being Nasdaq, it's all good. No problem. Yes, and then closed R3. I always risk 0.5. AM session 39 tick stop loss size. And then, by the way, I'm saying tick, guys, because I'm used to trading futures. So, I am a futures trader. So we'll just leave it at that. Let this file upload here. Okay, there's no reason why it should be lagging like that. Okay, nice. Okay, sounds good. So let's see if we do have an opportunity for EM3 or EM2 before the market dies down. Let's see what happens. So market just tagged our previous day low target. However, you know, it looks like it's starting to die down, and I stopped trading no matter what by 4 p.m. Eastern. So this concludes the trading day for ES and NASDAQ. We're up 3 hours so far for the week. Okay, let's take a look at Tuesday. Trade balance. Okay, interesting. Trade balance. So not something I'm worried about. So let's let the market play out here. Okay, and then let's do the same thing for NASDAQ on the 12-minute time frame. Actually, hold on. Okay, sick. All right, I'm not too worried about that trade balance news, so let's mark up our daily liquidity. Let's look for that EM1. So far, it looks like we are aiming towards this previous day low here, which is no problem with me. We're really close by to it. We were moving heavily bearish yesterday. So let's also mark up that previous day high. Who knows? Maybe we'll get an EM1 V2 this time, and this is just one huge fake out. That's the thing, right? You know, I try not to predict price. You know, I'll give you the most likely bias based on what I'm reading. However, you know, I'm never going to actually provide like a full-blown prediction because I don't believe in that. It's just not possible with the market, right? Like, you know, you react to the market, never predict to the market. Don't think anything else. You know, even like ICT and all that stuff, right? Like, you know, his concepts are excellent to work off of and everything, but you know, ICT, even himself has admitted he can't, you know, no one is certain of what's happening in the market, right? But out of everyone that's out there, ICT definitely has the most accurate mechanical concepts of the market, which is excellent. You know, personally, I love that guy, right? You know, a lot of my biggest breakthroughs as a trader started almost a year ago now when I started off here with ICT. So let's mark up our session liquidity as well. Okay. Session high and then another session high. Okay, awesome. Let's go back to ES here to identify our 10-minute swing highs and lows. So what I want to see happen here is we break these session highs and then have a 10-minute MSS, and then I can look for a sell towards a previous day low. Or the unlikely scenario but possible scenario is we break the session highs, we come back to the session highs as an area of a discount, we have a 10-minute break of structure, and then I can look for a buy towards the previous day high, which is possible. So let's just see what happens. I just want to wait for that session highs to kick in. So we actually swept the low first, so maybe we have a EM1 V2 happening. Okay, yeah, that's no problem. So the EM1 V2 didn't happen here. We were just too close to the previous day low. So now I want to wait for either well, in this case, honestly, at EM3, I'd be more comfortable with EM3 as in I'm looking for a reaction off of this session low, which is now technically a premium array. And then, or I can look for a reversal to take out these session highs. Given that these session highs are relative equal highs, I think it's pretty likely that we can look for a buy. So let's just see what happens here. Okay, we had a 10-minute break of structure there, And I'm really liking that we're in a super discount right now in the market. So me looking for a buy right now is just looking amazing. So I identified our 10-minute swing high there. So we want to see on the 5-minute if it actually breaks that. And then we can look for an entry. Nope. We had another 10-minute break of structure. So let's look for our next swing high. And then we had another. And then we had another. Yeah, you know, this happens sometimes, right? So, and then we just keep on going. Yes, we had this 10-minute break of structure here, but you know, we can see that the time that it occurred at is just way too late, which sucks because this is looking like a really clean entry, but I just stopped trading at 4 p.m. The liquidity really starts to die around 4 p.m. and we can see here that's pretty much exactly what happened. So no entries for ES on Tuesday. So let's check out NASDAQ 10-minute. So we can see here that we did sweep the session highs a little bit before pre-market. Now I do start trading at 8. As long as there isn't an entry that gets invalidated, I don't mind taking an entry that kind of, you know, had its setup occur outside of the time that we're looking at there. So anyways, yeah, 10-minute mark structure shift. Let's go in the 8-minute time frame here. I'm comfortable with that order block there. It is relatively small, so I do want to be a little bit cautious, really. But this is the most likely scenario here. This is on NASDAQ, so let's see what the entry is looking like. 34. So this one, definitely comfortable taking a 4R there. Now, we want to see if this is in the area of a premium, which we can see that it is. So I'm definitely comfortable with this entry. There's also this extreme order block up here that we could enter off of as well. However, due to the trend and the types of liquidity that we just swept there, and when we have our drawn liquidity, this is a pretty likely scenario to play out. So we can see that it actually did react off of the extreme order block there. So in this scenario, what I would have done really is once we identify more than one order block, we always want to take the entry in the extreme area. Almost always the order block that is not in the extreme will get swept. So that's definitely something good to note here for you guys. I do have a note in my Telegram regarding that. So just letting you know. So we do want to cover this full swing high here, 58. And because this is a NASDAQ trade and our stop loss size is not above 75 ticks, we can look for a 4R take profit. And then there we go. Okay. So we have a 4R TP there. Again, for backtesting purposes, the 3R is the traditional way of trading these models. However, I am testing out this full 4R here. And honestly, with NASDAQ, the average tick size is really above 75. So if I see something below 75, I'm very confident in that 4R. Just because NASDAQ is definitely a very liquid asset. So EM1, this is a variation 1, no classic model that we have here. NASDAQ, and then it is a 58 tick. We will, you know what, we'll mark it as 3R just because it's still a, technically speaking, it is still a test that we got going on. Awesome. Okay, looking good so far. Let's see if we can catch a EM3 or EM2. Okay, market just keeps tanking and tanking. We have our break of structure, so we want to look for EM2 model, which the break can be right there. Yeah. Okay. Moved very similar to ES. Okay. Awesome. So that concludes the Tuesday with a 3R win. We are counting it as 3R. So let's take a look at Wednesday. Wednesday we got crude oil. Okay, I'm more so a little bit iffy with crude oil. So let's go back on a 12-minute time frame, and then while that plays out, let's mark out our news, which is 10:30. So we want to have that buffer there. Okay, so let's drop our buffer here. So what time was it again? It was 10:30. So we want to have our buffer 10 to 15 minutes before, and then 10 to 15 minutes after. Awesome. So let's do the same thing for NASDAQ before I forget. Okay. Interesting. Okay, now let's draw up our daily liquidity. So we can see here we have relative equal lows for our previous day low, which ended up getting swapped in the London session. Now let's also drop our session highs, because once the daily liquidity is swept, which means our EM1 is done with, we either want to look for an immediate continuation once we sweep the daily low for a EM3, or we can look for a EM2 reversal. So let's go on ES. Let's just make sure we're at 8 a.m. because I don't start trading till 8. So on both instruments, we have the previous day low swept before in pre-market. So in that case, I'm going to be looking for an EM3 sell or a EM2 reversal towards the Asia liquidity. And I think, considering that the week has been bearish, the buy is really not looking all that bad. Just in case, though, an EM3 occurs, we do want to mark up that premium array. And we can kind of see that the market had a pretty strong reaction off of that premium array towards the daily low. So that can stay there intact. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Yes, whoa, I'm not closing no tab. So let's see what happens. It's 8 a.m. now. We either want to wait for this line to break, or we want to see the market return to that premium and then break lower. Okay. So if I go back here, because that's the high we would be looking at. Let's go on the 5-minute time frame here. We can see that it indeed was a pretty strong break. However, because we are in a premium area, I'm not exactly looking to take any entries here. Nonetheless, let's see how it all plays out. So we actually ended up sweeping the session high. So we did sweep our targets for the day, making all of the targets were swapped for Wednesday on ES. So Wednesday is done. Very quick. It does happen though. Honestly, I don't mind days like that though, because like with me, I just like, hey, how can I stay off the charts as much as possible? And that's really all I care about. So again, we have our 10-minute swing. However, we can kind of see already that both of these charts look relatively similar. This order block here is a horrible order block. It is high up there in the premium. We don't buy off the premiums. We buy in a discount. So we can see that the session high was taken. So that essentially just concludes all of the entries for the day, and then we can see that the market kind of just consolidated after that. So no problem there. No entries for Wednesday. So Let's take a look at Thursday unemployment claims at 8:30. So you know the deal. Oof, yeah, that was really not a good day. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, unemployment claims at 8:30. So let's add our buffers in. 8:12 and then 8:48. Okay, now let's drop our daily liquidity. So we just been breaking lows all freaking week. So ideally, I'd be looking for at the minimum the daily high here, the previous day high here to be swept before we can continue bearish, given that that is the scenario that plays out. So two scenarios that can play out here really is we can either continue upwards, break that session high, return to the session high, have a break of structure, and then we can have a EM1 V2 towards the previous day high, or we could sweep this session low and then have our classic model play out. Awesome. Okay, so we are looking for a buy. We can kind of see that we have just been absolutely demolishing our lows. We even break out this weekly low that we had here, and we are looking like, let's see, yeah, just been breaking lows. Awesome. Okay, looking for a buy there. And then let's take a look at NASDAQ here. There's our previous day low. Mark up our session lows. Session high, and then our previous day high. And then before I forget, drop the news one last time. 10 to 15 minute buffer before, and then 10 to 15 minute buffer after. So let's see what happens on the 10-minute time frame for ES. So in order for this to be a valid EM2, we essentially need to have a very strong break and then having this 10-minute break of structure. And then we need to have a good order block left behind for us there. Now, given that unemployment claims is coming up there, this definitely is a little bit of a risky EM1 V2, but no, nonetheless, it's still valid. So remember, we want to be identifying these breaks on the 5-minute. So 10-minute break of structure. And then we can see here that it is indeed a strong break. Now, we do have all of these relative equal lows here. However, we can see that all of this was swept before we even had this break upwards. So this is a little bit reassuring to me that we could have that very strong push up to the buy side liquidity there. Now, if we look for our order block, let's see if we can find something cleaner on the 8-minute, which in fact it is. So let's take the entry off of the 8-minute. Now, the way that it works is 90% of the time I look for entries off of the 5-minute using 5-minute order blocks. However, sometimes I need to switch between the 5 to even up to 15-minute time frame to look for the cleanest order block available. So entry would be there. We do want to cover that full low there. Okay, so as long as the entry is before this orange line, this is a valid entry. The stop loss is actually kind of small, so risk less on this trade for sure. This one for our Now, this is honestly a risky entry. However, nonetheless, it is following the parameters of our models. And we can see there that the take profit was swept fairly fast. So that is a valid, well, I'm going to count it as 3R, but following the new parameters, because remember, I'm back testing at the same time I'm showing it to you. I am trying to figure out some parameters for the 4R, since I created like a 2R entry model for, well, if the stop loss is big. Now I figured if the stop loss is smaller, we can aim for a larger reward as well. So let's journal this entry here. Very nice. So this is a EM1 V2, and then the date was December the 8th. So EM1 V2, the pair is ES, close, we're going to say 3. I always risk 0.5. Stop loss size is 13, which is pretty small, to be honest. So there we go. Now we can either look for a EM3 continuation or a EM2 reversal. Let's see what happens. Okay, EM3 it is. Now, why am I saying EM3? Well, we swept the previous day high. We returned to the previous session high as an area of a discount, hence the DPSH, aka discount previous session high. We had a 10-minute break of structure, so now we can look for another buy to follow the daily trend essentially. So this is our big order block here. Let's take a look at what we're working with here. So we are above the 50 tick parameters, so we are only going to be targeting 2R. See what happens. Now, once we're in the entry, we do want to take note of when is the next 10-minute break of structure, because once that 10-minute break of structure occurs, we do want to place a break even on the trade. So we can unfortunately see that we are coming close to the 4 p.m. time here. I do stop trading at 4. So essentially the way that I do it is the second it becomes 4 p.m., I just close the trade no matter what. So we can see that by 4 p.m. The trade was really just closed at partials there. You know, it does happen. So let's mark up. I draw these little red circles to help me highlight, you know, what's going on. Essentially what I'm trying to say is like, oh, this first circle right here, we took out the daily high. Now we took out the session high as an area of a discount. So we can look for a continuation. So partials, EM3, this is for ES. EM3, ES closed our partials, risk 0.5, stop loss size was 78. And then there we go. Okay, so that concludes the trading day for ES. Now let's take a look here on NASDAQ. So we did sweep the session high there. So what happened here? Consolidated. We came up, swept the session high. We came down, kind of reacted, and we had another break. So we can look for a EM2 model here. However, something to note. So this is the area we'd be looking for the 10-minute break of structure. So 10-minute break of structure. However, if we take our fib tool and we identify what broke structure, we can see that the first candle did not have a candle body that closed above. So we have not entered anything yet. The first candle as a continuation, same thing. Second candle, nothing. However, the third candle did have a strong break. The candle body broke above these two red lines, which is just the 40 and 60% on the fib. So I am going to be looking for a buy here. And then we can also take a look here. Another nice thing with this trade is that we did have all of these little points of sell side liquidity that was swept by this candle here, therefore making me more comfortable with the buy entry here. As pretty much the idea with my models is, if we're not buying or selling from our premium and discount arrays, I do want to buy once we take out sell side liquidity, and then sell once we take out buy side liquidity. That's the concept. So I'm not really liking the order blocks I'm seeing here. So if we go to the 8-minute time frame, which is honestly my go-to, we can identify this order block here, and then I always want to take my entry. Covering at least a nice swing low. We can see that the stop loss size is below 75 ticks on NASDAQ. So theoretically, we can take this for 4R. However, we're going to be journaling this as a 3R. Well, no entry there. And anyways, it wouldn't have happened because once we went into this news range here, I would have deleted my limit and would have reactivated it once we were done with that news area. Trust me, it is well worth it doing it that way. I don't recommend it any other way. So we are going to mark this as a no entry. NASDAQ 47. Let's see. So EM1 V2. NASDAQ no entry. We didn't risk anything. 47 AM. Okay, awesome. So now we can either look for an EM2 reversal or an EM3 continuation. Let's see what happens. So we returned to the session high as an area of a discount, and we even tapped this further session low as well. We had our 10-minute breaker structure right here. So we can look for our EM3 model. And then if we identify a order block, we can see that it's essentially just this massive range right here, which is very likely too low, way too large. Yeah, so we wouldn't be able to take an entry there. And then if we just play out the rest of the day, we kind of see it was just consolidating all freaking day. So that concludes the trading day for NASDAQ. Now, finally, let's take a look at Friday, core PPI. Remember, I only trade the AM session on Friday. I do not trade PM session. That is just my personal preference. I could care less what's going on in the PM session. I just want to be done with for the week. So let's let this play out here. Okay, let's mark up our news. So 8:30. That means we want to look at 8:12 to 8:48, and then the other one was what, 10? So 9:48, and then we can say 10:12. Do the same thing for NASDAQ. Awesome. Okay. 8:12, 8:48, and then 9:48, 10:12. Okay. Let's draw up our daily liquidity first before we look for any models. So we can see that the previous day high was swept, and we've kind of just been in a bullish trend pretty much for both Tokyo and London sessions. So because of that, I am going to be looking for sells only. So I am looking to take out this Asia liquidity here. That is my primary target. However, I can also look out to take that London low. Okay, go over here, draw up our liquidity quickly. Previous day high, we got swept already, so that means we're looking for an EM2 sell towards the previous session lows. Awesome, amazing. Okay, let's go on a 10-minute time frame. We are looking for a 10-minute break of structure. However, we got these equal highs here, so I do want to see that swap first. We did sweep that almost immediately. Let's see what. Oh shit! Damn. Okay, all of the liquidity targets were swept, so we're done for ES. Let's see what happens on Nasdaq. News tanked it. Absolutely tanked it. So that ends the trading week, guys. Let's quickly calculate what our total R for the week is. So 3, 6, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we are closing the week off with 9R. That would be December the 5th to December the 9th, 2022.